When I landed in Perth in September, one of the first things I noticed was that the Subiaco Post almost every week was running letters and articles that were quite critical of proposed bicycle infrastructure projects around the western suburbs. Wembley, Cottesloe, Fremantle, didn't matter. They were finding people that didn't like these projects, and they were very happy to print their angry stories about what was wrong with them. So, for instance, when Eric Street, for instance, they came up with all sorts of reasons why it's bad, and I've done a couple of videos saying why I don't think that's so. Now, how do I go about this? Well, the first thing I do is have a look at what the residents have said. So in this case, Eric Street, the path will lay down too much concrete. It'll be a red path, and the red path will be ugly. It'll just destroy their pristine verges. Someone's put in reticulation and it will wreck it. And of course, the great bugbear these days, it'll be unsafe. They don't say exactly how it's going to be unsafe. They don't say, well, riding on the road at the moment is not exactly safe in this lane marked out by magic paint. And you'd think that riding over on the verge on a shared path would be safer, but they don't really think about that. Anyway, my methodology. In this case, here's Strava. They've split up Eric Street into segments. I chose a segment, and this just shows that so far I've ridden up and down Eric Street 18 times. Well, that's from the railway down to the beach. Because what I normally do is when I'm riding down to, say, Fremantle, down the shared path, I get to Eric Street, peel off, go down the beach, sometimes ring up a mate who lives down that way, we catch up at a cafe for a coffee, and then I'll ride back down Russell Street, down the shared path, Freo, return, that kind of thing. So I've always got the cameras running front and rear, and I just collect the footage as a byproduct of a ride, and I pick up certain things like the residents on this corner love to park their car out on the public verge, and they've parked it there so often you might notice that the vegetation's been almost killed off at times. So you start to see patterns like that. You pick up things that maybe even their fellow residents don't realise, because you've got to remember, unless they're out walking the dog and paying attention to their surroundings, all the residents along here are probably driving up and down at 50, 60 kilometres an hour. They're focused on the road. They don't actually look at the street. They're not looking at their neighbours' houses, their neighbours' verges, what their neighbours are up to. And of course, these days there's so many people looking at their phones, they don't actually study their environment. So, I do. That's just, my nature. And, I like to look at stuff. I like to try and analyse what's going on. I'm always scanning left and right and up and down to see what's in my environment and to pick up on interesting things. And of course, when I get home and I've got all this video and I've saved every single ride up and down Eric Street, so I've got a library so I can show you what happens different days, different times of the day. I haven't been here long enough to do different seasons, school days versus non-school days, commuting times, peak times versus off-peak. It'd be really interesting to do this in summer, for instance, when there's hordes of people going down the beach and looking for parking spots, and Eric Street is probably a lot busier in summer than it is in winter, but, I don't have that the luxury of being here that long to pick up on that kind of thing. So, the video I've got is a bit constrained in that, I can only go out for a ride when I've got a gap in my workday. So, the times I'm out is kind of driven by my work, and I've got meetings at the same time every week, so I obviously don't have footage from those times. Anyway, I've ridden up and down the street quite a lot, and I've also ridden cross country a few times to try and follow the route that the shared path is going to take when it's constructed. So we've also got video of that. So if anyone has concerns about it, like for instance cars coming out of the side streets, we can look at the video and think about, are those concerns valid? Do we need to change the design to remediate any issues that have been identified? Or do we need to look at possibly changing behaviour of people? For instance, residents, if they're used to just barreling out of their driveways without looking, maybe they need to change the way they come barreling out of their driveways. I not do that anymore. They might need to get used to just very briefly beeping their horn when they drive out, or just edging out, sticking their nose out so people can see there's a car emerging, so they can brake. And not just come swanning out thinking, everyone will stop for me. I come out of my driveway now. Good luck, everybody. It also helps in picking up things when people say, "Oh, pristine verges." Well, have a look at this verge. It's just knee-high weeds almost, end to end. So when people are saying, "Oh, the street is full of pristine verges," you can look at the video and go, "Well, yes and no. There are some pristine verges that wouldn't be out of sight on a golf course, and there's clearly a lot of residents that don't give a damn." So, don't come out with a comment saying everyone has a pristine verge, because they don't. Comments about too much concrete. Well, look at the concrete that a lot of these residents have laid down for their driveway crossovers. Some of their front yards are just almost pure concrete, no grass at all. So, when you're complaining about, the 3-metre wide path will be this horrible concrete scar. Well, okay, why don't we tear up your driveway crossovers and, on the public land, and replace them with something, like some porous pavers that will have a smaller footprint than that. That'll fix the problem, won't it? Yeah, I can hear the screaming from here. Anyway, but it's that kind of thing where we now have a video library showing exactly what's going on in this area. When we don't just have maps of the route, which are kind of hard to interpret at times. It's not just looking at Google Maps and maybe doing a street view. We've actually got video at lots of times showing exactly what the residents and their visitors are getting up to. So, when an article gets published, we can read through it and go, "Oh, look, they made a number of statements here. Can we actually back those up using the video evidence, or can we refute them?" And and obviously, if we've ridden up and down lots of times, then we can say, "Okay, well, we've looked at this 20 times or more. What have you got to back up your statements?" And this is something that I really wish the Subi Post would do. Not ride up and down the street 20 times, but at least just do it once and have a look for themselves, because it really annoys me when they're getting a letter from someone, and instead of evaluating it and saying, "Oh, here's a letter from somebody. Is this factually correct? Is this true? Let's go and have a look for ourselves." It's like, "Oh, we've got some space in the paper, we'll just print it." And not care about the consequences on everybody else, like cyclists who are currently, the brave and the mad are out riding on a fairly unsafe lane on the road, and they're killing off the chances of building a very safe off-road path, which will be a lot more inclusive. It'll make cycling accessible to a much wider range of people in terms of age, ability, and all that kind of thing. So, yeah, when they do this stuff, it frustrates me, and that's why I put the effort into going out and gathering the facts and hopefully having some ammunition to shoot down some of these claims.